Hello everyone and welcome back to Sendik's Weather channel. Today we are going to be doing our first summer look ahead, which will take us from June to September. Now I know that probably a lot of you will be quite excited about this one, as probably a lot of you are thinking ahead to summer, but Sendik's here to give you your summer forecast. So let's see what the trends are. So of course we're looking at the experimental CFS model today for these charts. We'll have a look at the CFS V2 long range charts. This is just one run, so again take it with a pinch of salt, but it's just a look ahead to see if we can identify any trends in these summer updates. We'll also have a look at the ECMWF temperature anomalies going through the summer, just to see what they are showing. So let's get on with things, and if you do find today's video a bit of fun, a bit informative, a bit drifting away, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, if you do enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. If you would like to support me, which again, you don't have to, the link is in the description, and I thank you all very much for your continued support. Anyway, let's start then. So of course the summer solstice is the 21st of June, the meteorological date, or the astrological date is the 21st of June, the summer solstice, the longest day. But we're going to start from the 1st of June. Now what I do find funny is the 31st of May here. You can see the CFS has high pressure out in the Atlantic and low pressures to our east, bringing in these cool northerly winds, which is pretty ironic, with some pretty chilly air masses moving in. Again, it's end of May, so it's not cold. But we'd be talking about that in December. We would be talking about cold, but because it's June, we want the warm. So, cooler, changeable, more unsettled start. 1st of June then. So we have high pressure out in the Atlantic, low pressures just to our north, bringing in the wind from the northwest. And the winds remain from the north with this run into the first week of June, so keeping quite cool and changeable, Atlantic driven as well. The upper air temperatures aren't anything spectacular for the start of June here because the winds are in from off the Atlantic, low pressure systems are just to our north. Another low develops, that could be bringing some thunderstorms to the far south and southwest. That'll be an interesting start to June, quite volatile there. And then you can see that they're kind of changeable. Low pressure systems sat right over and just to the west of the country, keeping it quite unsettled. High pressures towards Greenland, and we're keeping the winds in from a changeable west-northwesterly type flow. With this though, the low pressures on the back edge do drag in some milder air as they sat to our west. We do bring in some slightly warmer air from the south, as this low pressure sits in the Atlantic by 23rd of June. So around that summer solstice, we actually do see low pressure sits out in the Atlantic, and around the back of that, we are pulling the winds up from a pretty nice southwesterly. So we are beginning to drag in some warmer air into the far southeast. See the 10-degree ice firm moving in. That could get the temperatures into 20 degrees, and quite well mid to probably high 20s to be honest with that. Again though, it's pretty Atlantic driven. You can see areas of low pressure moving in through June, keeping it quite unsettled, probably quite volatile month. Through June there's not really much hope for much mild weather, to be honest with that one. Well, warm weather you'd say. It looks quite changeable. You can see at the very end of June that we are in this west-southwesterly with this low pressure to the north, bringing in some decently warm air from off the Atlantic. The 10-degree ice firm moving in again, which may lift the temperatures up again, but we'll have to wait and see. You can see by then, on this day, for example, that the temperatures aren't too bad by day. So 20 degrees, 25 degrees with that. But pretty changeable. Now into the July month, you can see it's still not great. There are warmer temperatures lifting up. You can see there's a bit of a warm plume from Africa going northwards. As you can see there's some areas of low pressure over Spain, and they're bringing in some very hot air into parts of Italy and the Balkans. 30-degree ice firm moving in, that could lift temperatures even into the 40s by the early half of July with this. But we're still bringing in some quite warm air at this time now, with winds in from the east. If we get the winds in from the east, it is going to feel quite mild, quite warm, or even hot, to be fair. But you can see areas of low pressure do move in to this quite hot air, this 10-degree ice firm. It is quite warm. That's going to be bringing areas of heavy rain, persistent rain, and thunderstorms. It's quite volatile. That low pressure does clear away to our east, and we go into more of a westerly pattern again, clearing away those very mild, very hot temperatures. Well, very hot, I'd say. Probably, pretty nice temperatures, I'd say. Getting the temperatures around the 20-degree mark for much of July here. But we are out in from off the Atlantic, so a lot of unsettled weather. This low pressure gets stuck just in the Atlantic, keeping us quite unsettled with the 10-degree ice firm circling around, so pretty warm as again, still hovering around the 20 degrees here. And for much of the month, we don't bring in these ridiculous 15 to 20 degree ice firms, but we keep the 10 degree ice firm around the country for much of the run, with winds in from the east and the southeast, with slight Atlantic influences at times. But this is a very warm month, a very pleasant June, probably quite warm at times, maybe even hot. Temperatures probably into the mid-20s a lot. But as you can see here, by the 1st of August, we're into August now, the final month of the summer. And you can see low pressure sat to our east. Winds are in from the southwest with that. Or from the, I should say, from the northeast, not the southwest, the northeast with that. And they're still dragging in some pretty mild temperatures, but again, could be quite stormy in the far south. Areas of low pressure continue to bound in from the Atlantic, but this one gets stuck out to our west. And again, we drag up some quite nice air, or quite mild air from the southwest again, with 10 degrees from extending northwards. Almost dragging in the 15 degrees firm, but that goes just into France. But it is very unsettled at times. By the 10th of August, low pressure's rattling in from the Atlantic again. But heights are building to our north and east, dragging in some more mild temperatures. We do stay pretty mild. There's not too many cooler interludes. It's just quite volatile month with areas of low pressure rattling in, keeping it quite stormy. Winds are in from the east by the 22nd, but the air masses are still pretty nice. By the end, you can see it turns very stormy with the Atlantic making a proper onslaught attempt here. Low pressure begins to develop in the Atlantic. Quite tropical storms by the looks of things. They're moving in. High pressure stuck towards Greenland. And by the very end, as we're going into the beginning of September, we're going colder again, or cooler again with northerly winds. And those mild temperatures get cleared away. But from this, it looks very volatile, but very nice, quite mild as well for the first summer update. But plenty of low pressure, as you'd expect, rattling in from the Atlantic. Feels a lot like 2022 summer, which was quite hot at times, which I do imagine some of these 15 degree ice firms moving in at times. But we don't quite on this run, but we are in that 10 degree ice firm. We are bringing in Atlantic air masses at times, but we are usually just out to the west. We are, to the east of them, these low pressure, they get stuck towards Greenland, and we keep bringing in relatively hot air or mild air from the south. So not a particularly ridiculous record-breaking summer from the CFS today, but it looks quite pleasant, it looks quite mild, and temperatures definitely will be in the 20, 25, maybe even 30 degree range for much of this summer. But we won't have any record-breaking heat, 40 degrees with this. Probably just a nice, pleasant, and quite warm summer. So that's a pretty interesting update. We'll keep going with them. So this is the CFS anomaly for June. This is the midnight run. This is the anomaly, the pressure anomalies for the full month from yesterday, the 9th of April. So for June, it looks quite a nice, maybe even a hot June. High pressures away towards Scandinavia and towards Greenland, but with that, we are bringing in the winds from the east. Now, easterly winds in June can be quite nice. They can be quite pleasant and quite dry and sunny, and promote some fine weather. These white areas, this here in the east parts of Eastern Europe of Italy, could be low pressure, so we're nowhere near that. We're quite dry. July looks pretty good to me. Again, we've got a signal for high pressure towards Scandinavia, and around that we are bringing the wind from a southerly or southeasterly. So quite a hot July from the midnight run from yesterday, suggesting we could be bringing in some quite hot air masses for the time of year, from maybe the Azores high, from Spain, from Portugal, maybe even from Africa if we get a proper Spanish flu moving up. But of course, all in due course, it's a long way off. It's just a bit of fun having a look at these forecasts. And then we've got August, with high pressure kind of blocking to the north. And around that, we could be bringing in the wind from an east or northeasterly, so slightly cooler. Could be a front-loaded summer, and then turning slightly more cooler, I guess. But again, we're under high pressure. It looks pretty settled to me. It looks pretty mild. September, now this obviously isn't really the summer, but we'll have a look at it anyway. High pressure's ridging in the Atlantic, and winds are in from the northwest, so slightly cooler, but still quite dry. We're being protected by the high pressure out in the Atlantic, so pretty dry summer favoured. And if we have a look at the rest of the anomalies, October looks terrible with winds in from the north. November looks quite nice with high pressure at the top, could be some quite pleasant days. And then December looks quite high pressure, quite settled, low pressure to the north, looks probably quite mild and dry. But we don't care about that today. We care about this. Right, I'm going to change my screen so I can actually see it, and hopefully you can too. So this is the ECMWF seasonal forecast. This takes us through the monthly periods. So firstly, you can see that the map is highly red, as you'd expect, because of our warming climate. And you can just make out the UK there. So this is the period of May. So we're going to go to June next, which is what we care about. And as you can see, we are about 50 to 60% likely to have 2 metre temperatures above average. So you'd expect 0.5 degree to 1 degree above average with this. If you're in these darker reds, you're expecting 2 to 3 or even more degrees above average for this month. July, slightly less favourable, maybe slightly cooler for Scotland, but probably still above average. 56% chance of that. Again, 0.5 degree to 1 degree above average, probably expected there. And finally, August, again, 60 to 70% chance, so probably 1 to 1.5 degrees above average with that. Again, we are favouring these above average temperatures. There's not many blues around or whites around, but again, the signal does weaken as you go along from June to August, but it does look like quite. Look at the whole world. It's just reds and oranges. Remember, it probably won't be like that in reality because it is just a screenshot from a model, but it just shows the changing climate that we are experiencing at the moment. Will it ever reverse? We'll have to wait and see. That's for us to decide, I guess, isn't it? But I'm not getting political on this video. We're just having a look. So, what do we think to that one, everyone? Well, I think the summer looks quite pleasant with that. Obviously, it looks quite volatile at times. So, bowling thunderstorm, man, I'm sure you'll be excited about that if there is any thunderstorms around, if you're watching this video. But it looks quite a warm summer. Not ridiculously warm, not record-breaking, but it looks like quite a pleasant and warm summer for you warm, sunny lovers out there. And even the ECM favours a pretty slightly above average summer with that. So, again, this is just one screenshot, and it might look different whenever you look. But we'll see you all in the next summer update. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one. And let me know what you think to this idea and if you'd like to see more. Bye-bye, everyone.